almost the weekend again, and I am joined by pro gamer Joe
Oh, no. Yeah, I am once again joined by lead king of kings and ruler of all jewels,
Oh
Darian.
boy, oh boy, it's good to be here on a lazy Saturday morning.
Yeah, just I mean, as a heads up, this one may be more unhinged and meandering than previous episodes, if that's even possible.
Yeah,
Um, we're
100%.
both in a state at the moment. My mind is in too many places, and poor Darian is suffering as well. So
Yeah, for the sake of the audience, just pretend we're spectacularly hungover. That
yeah,
that
that's good.
that should do
That's better. Yeah,
it.
that would
Ho-
work better.
Hopefully, you're listening to this on a train with the rain slipping down the window, and
Mm-hmm.
you can just zone out because
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Joe, how have you been?
I've been well. The week went pretty quickly again.
You're
It
doing
felt
like a
like
speed run of 2022.
it definitely feels that way. It's like my birthday's like next week. Like
Yeah.
it's wild. I thought it was still February, but here we are. Yeah, no, it was pretty chill actually. I played some more Elden Ring. I've been playing Hunt again. I think I mentioned Hunt to you in one of the earlier episodes.
Yeah, yep.
Some people from the office, so it's been real fun.
Oh, cool.
We the studio that I work for, the game that they released a while ago now called Artful Escape won a BAFTA yesterday, so that's very
Yeah.
exciting for everyone.
Dude, congrats. That's huge.
Yeah, thanks, man. BAFTA. I mean, I only, like I've said in the previous episodes, I've only contributed a little bit, but it still feels good to have my hands on the BAFTA, even if it is just like a couple of pinky fingers, just like lightly brushing the edge of it. It's still a nice vibe.
Yeah, and you're in for good now though. You've got that. You're in the studio, so like
That's right.
it's nice having that kind of success of the last game to give you some momentum for the next one.
Totally, totally. Apparently, as well with BAFTAs, you can get easier sponsorship to travel overseas. Like if you wanted to go work remotely in like Japan or something, and you needed to
Oh,
have like, um, the ability to fly there just for on a work visa, having a BAFTA allows you to do this. Apparently.
oh wow, that's pretty great.
Yeah, I had no idea that this is also just TSA. I don't know if this is true or not. I could be completely wrong, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not going to look bad on the application.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I expect to just be able to walk through the gates at the airport just completely naked, screaming BAFTA at the top of my lungs, and then they let me on the plane and go where I need to go.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a system in place for that
Totally.
specific purpose.
It's happened before, it'll happen again. Anyway, how have you been doing this week?
um, yeah, I'm good. I've started doing some writing, some like I it's a far cry from video game journalism, but just doing some introspectives on some games I played recently.
Hell yeah.
Um, I wrote a script for like a blasphemous video that I'd love to do.
Oh, as in like a YouTube essay style thing?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, dude, that would be amazing.
yeah. And I'm writing one for Elden Ring now. So I've never really done much video editing, so I'm kind of keen to just jump in and give it a crack and see how it goes.
That's awesome,
Um,
man.
yeah, so it's been good to do something productive. But otherwise, I started playing Disco Elysium,
Yep.
and oh my
Classic.
god, oh I
Yeah.
love it so much.
Yeah.
I saw Phoebe play through a lot of the first half back when it came out on Switch. So I've kind of been wanting to forget what happened so I could,
Yeah.
have my own experience. And it's just awesome. And I've chosen a pretty different set of skills than
Yep.
Phoebe did. So I'm getting a lot of prompts and dialogue options that I didn't see in her playthrough anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
it feels really good. I'm only a couple of hours in, so I definitely have that recency bias up the wazoo. But I'm very keen to keep it going.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, so the video essay thing, that's rad. Are there any video essay people that you look up to or that you've been watching?
Um, yeah. So like, I really enjoy Donkey's Dunk View videos.
Yeah.
They're like short and sweet and to the point, and he often has good observations around how the game he's talking about could be improved. And I'm all about that when it comes to video essay stuff. Is not just like breaking down what's already there, but
Yeah.
having ideas around, the next entry in the series, what could be done better, what
Yeah.
maybe could be left behind, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I started writing the Elden Ring script just because when I finished it, I started watching videos about it and seeing what people were saying, and I've got a lot of opinions that I haven't really seen.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I might just give this a go and and see. It's been fun to write, but we'll see if it's fun to record and edit and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the whole playthrough, I was recording footage. So I've got like 3 hours of footage there that I can hopefully turn into 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Um,
So I want to point you in two directions for some neat reference to potentially set you on your way a little bit,
oh
just with
yeah,
regards to the video editing and presentation part.
yeah.
Eurothug, she's a New Zealand YouTuber, and she did a whole bunch of really great stuff with Death Stranding when it came out, but she's also got
Oh,
heaps of other videos that are really neat little um, they're all varied topics. It's like indie games that I played in 2021 and stuff. Like,
hmm,
let's just go through all her favorite stuff. And the other one I want to point you, and sorry, and her editing style is really nice, gentle, feeling like it's like a warm hug style video.
oh,
You feel very at home
yeah,
when you
that's
watch her
great.
videos.
That's great.
And the other one is Tim Rogers, who I've mentioned to you before. He's the one who did like the 14-20 hour long video essay on Cyberpunk 2077,
Whoa,
which had to be uploaded in like 5 or 6 different parts to
wow,
YouTube. Yeah,
that
each one's
is
like 6 hours long or something. Yeah, it's he is a freak. But he has some shorter versions or shorter videos and editing styles, which I think you may find enjoyable. That they may tickle you a little bit as well.
cool. Well, I've got beginner's mind when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm ready to just be like torn down to the ground and shredded apart so that I can.
Yeah,
um,
I mean, it's always like, yeah, the first thing you always make is always going to be a little bit challenged, and like all sorts of things you learn after doing the thing first. But yeah, I always love, like, especially with these guys, they do such a great job of the video essay format. I think because some video essay form, I was watching one on the Dark Souls series the other day on the train,
oh yeah,
and it was fine, but it was like so dry, like so dry.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so like you got to walk that line,
Well, that's I think that's what is making it interesting for me to write is because I usually come at these things with so much humor,
Mm.
but what I've written so far is filled with criticism, and so I'm trying to like not be too whiny and highlight what the game did well, but also highlight all the things I think the game failed at doing.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, it's just been a really interesting phenomenon to see the release of Elden Ring and see how praised it's been, and it
Yeah.
it feels like it's on this untouchable pedestal.
Mm.
And in Donkey's video, and there's another channel I watch sometimes, a girlfriend reviews. She did
Yes.
she did an Elden Ring video as well, and when they both had criticisms, they said we're gonna be lynched for this, but it needs to be said, and it's just
Yeah.
like, man, I hate that. Like they had like one or two criticisms, and I've got 20, and
Yeah.
I think it's a really good game, but I think it's a game that isn't ambitious and it's quite basic in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm keen to talk with you about it, and I'm also keen to see that video essay when it comes out. I mean, prepared to get tacked. I mean, like,
Yeah, no, well,
the
I'm up for that. I'm up for that.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
we'll see. I might it might be a one and done scenario.
potentially, yeah, yeah. You should
Yeah,
upload it under a pseudonym or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Um,
hopefully, it's ready by the time the Elden Ring spoiler cast comes out that we do, and it can
totally.
kind of go side by side.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hell yeah. What a good week then for both of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall
Uh,
we dive into this week's topic?
oh yeah, yeah. Hit me. So we're gonna talk about difficulty this week, and I kind of like how we've got each of these topics listed just as the core concept. Like it's not difficulty in video games or
Yeah.
something more specific. It's just difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I think the only episode is number 2 that's got music's interactive role in video
yeah.
games.
And that's us, beginner's mind. We're still working out the brand, all that kind of crap.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um yeah. So, I mean, do you want to kick us off with this one or do you want me to just start yapping?
I mean, I want to get to a rant state of mind as quickly as possible.
Okay. Okay. So, look, for me, difficulty is such a broad and like branching topic, right? Like inside of video games, difficulty has had like a history, and it's also got like a modern implication, a modern, what would you call it?
Well,
Set of things. Sorry, you want to jump in?
yeah, well, one of the prompts we've got are around self-imposed challenges, and
Right.
that's another 7 topics on its own because
Yeah.
there are swathes of communities and initiatives like speedrunning for charity and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that have come out of self-imposed challenges, and I think I don't know how much time we want to spend on that today, but I find myself leaning towards self-imposed challenges with games I'm familiar with.
Yep.
Like it really offers something fresh to an experience I already love, and the fact that other people have taken this to such an extreme level, looking at Super Mario 64 speedrunners and just any game where they basically allow for glitches and that kind of thing. I just think it's an insanely creative and difficult way to enjoy a game that's already been played and done over 1,000 times.
Yeah. Do we see this kind of thing pop up in other mediums? Like even in board games, I guess there may be like just to like go one level above games or
Mm.
removed from games. Do you know any board games that have like self-imposed difficulty challenges? I know there's like some that they changed rules for, like Monopoly or like or whatever, but I don't really see it being done in the same way in other mediums at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I guess the only
Would you
the
say
only,
like difficulty is like unique to video games in a way?
yeah, well, I think it's unique to games. So,
Mm.
sports and personal bests. When
Yes.
it comes to athletics, like all of this kind of stuff rings
Yeah.
true with self-imposed challenges and like trying to get a better performance from yourself.
I suppose I mean more like consumable media, like books, TV, television.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that there are self-imposed challenges around like movies and books. Like I'm trying to read 36 books this year, for
Yeah.
example, and that's kind of a challenge, I guess, but I
Yeah.
also just love reading.
Yeah.
But so it's a challenge on paper, but it's not really a challenge. It's an easy
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting. And then like I guess there could also be difficult to watch movies, like challenging topics or whatever, or there's people who do like movie marathons.
Oh yeah,
Um,
like all the Lord of the Rings in one go and stuff like that.
yeah, or like watching The Room, or like, those shit movies can be like a challenge to get through, like
Yeah,
grading on like a mental level.
I think the distinction is that a lot of those challenges are passive,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I I I mean, I guess I can attempt a Mario 64 speed run, but it's gonna be a garbage result. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
takes a lot of effort and practice and discipline to be
yeah.
able to enter that community and have something decent to offer.
So yeah, I think you just like touched on something now. See if I can hang on to the thread, right? So in games, there's self-imposed challenges that come with a bunch of rules, right? Or like a learning curve. So
Hmm.
in the case of Mario 64 speedruns, you can't really jump in and try and do a 16-star speedrun in Super Mario 64 unless you know the strats of how to do the speedrun for 16 stars. Like
Right.
you can attempt to just go and find 16 stars in any order you like, I guess. But it's not even considered a true 16 star, I think, if you do different stars. I think in order to be qualified to do the 16-star speedrun, you need to do like the right ones.
Right. Well, I imagine it's just so optimized at this stage that even if you were to find 16 alternate stars, your time wouldn't even be close to
That's right. Yeah.
whatever the standard might be.
Yeah. That's part of it for sure. And then there's also like, so contrast to that, there's also just difficulty imposed by the video game, right? So like the nature of the speedrun is also potentially enhanced with Mario 64 speedrun by particular strats that are like hard to do within the
Mm.
framework of the video game. Like doing this specific controller move is like made easier by like using an old school controller or something, for instance. Like, and
Oh,
stuff like
yeah.
that as well is also a different type of difficulty, which I wanted to talk about, which was like form factor difficulty. So the game Quap or
Uh,
Clop?
yeah, that's like where each key of the keyboard is a different hoof of a horse or something like that.
Yeah, Quap. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's another Bennett Foddy one. He did Getting Over It. Have you played Getting Over It as well?
No, I haven't played either of those games, but I,
Ah,
I know of them. That's like the
yeah,
the boulder one, right? Like he's
yeah,
in a
yeah.
boulder. Yeah.
He's in a big pot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like just the actual maneuvering of the mouse in such a way that it makes it challenging to perform the tasks inside the game. And so
Yeah.
there's like, yeah, that's a different kind of angle on difficulty, which is also, I think, kind of unique to video games if we're talking about
Mm.
consumable media only. I mean, you can try and play a game of hockey with like toothpicks or whatever, and that makes it supremely more challenging. But
I mean, some of the difficulty challenges that people like the speed runs and stuff. I think that's akin to playing hockey with toothpicks. When I see someone do like a Sekiro speed run and they beat the game in 20 minutes. I think the world record is like 19 minutes and 59 seconds now.
yeah,
um,
wow,
and it's just insane. You look at that and you're
yeah,
like, oh yeah, I could practice every day for a year and maybe try and do that. It's just
yeah,
such an intensely specific set of skills that you need to master.
yeah, yeah. And then
Um,
there's like a different kind of difficulty on there as well. Like I feel like we're sort of going up with speed runs a lot, but I don't think speed runs are necessarily the main part of why games are difficult. Or like I mean they're an aspect of it, right? But they're self-imposed things. And I think there's like the other part of it as well, which has nothing to do with speed runs, which is just like the difficulty of the game, which is
yeah.
like a really abstract thing.
So do you think games without difficulty settings are more enjoyable? And I don't mean like no difficulty settings. I mean like Mario 64 doesn't have an easy, medium, or hard. It's just a platforming game, and like all the levels are the same, and there's nothing you can change compared to say like Wolfenstein, where it's got or Halo, where it's got four difficulties. Do you
Yeah.
do you prefer a game without difficulty settings or with them?
Um I think that's tricky because there's different types of games, which some lend themselves really well to needing a difficulty setting, and other ones do not. So
Right.
like platformers as an example with Mario, or even other platformers like I'm thinking of Meat Boy and Celeste and um
Well,
other platformers, right?
Meat Boy is an interesting concept because unlike Mario, it's
Mhm.
got a dark world section.
Yep,
So
optional.
so you can play through the levels that are there,
Yep.
or you can ramp up the difficulty and play dark world, which is way more challenging. And it's the same skeleton of the level, but there's like 1,000 more buzzsaws or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think it's like again, there's another. We were like sort of. I feel like we're pulling the layers away from the clay to reveal the difficulty face. you know,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think
yeah.
there's like the difficulty of the design, right? Like in the case of Meat Boy doing Dark World stuff,
Hmm.
and then there's the difficulty of like a setting. So like the amount of health or something like that. So there's like which also could be arguably design as well. Maybe this is where it gets a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, well, I think inherently difficulty based on scaling is more lazy than other
Okay.
types of difficulty curves. So you had someone design those Dark World meatball levels. You know, they decided to put the buzzsaws here
Is
and
it
create
meatball?
the meat boy. Oh my god. We're hungover, remember, give us a break.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah, so Meatball Boy,
You had someone
those
design those. Yep.
yeah, someone designed those levels where for the Witcher 3, you know, the hardest difficulty setting is just the enemies have more health, they do more damage, and you do less damage, and that's it.
Mm.
That's all
Mm-hmm.
that changes when you change the difficulty. Um, but there's again another element that complicates things more, which is within the structure of the game. There are all these ways to give yourself like a better chances during combat that don't really have that much of an effect on, say,
Mm-hmm.
normal mode.
Yep.
So when I first started playing The Witcher 3, I played on, you know, whatever the default mode was, normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I got 10 hours in, and I just thought that this, like, I wasn't experiencing all that the game had to offer. And I started again and played it on Death's March or whatever the nightmare difficulty is called.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just 100 times more satisfying. I was effectively forced to use the potions to have a chance.
Yep.
And so it made everything else in the game more meaningful. So
Yep.
it was really important that I had the ingredients to make the potions. Otherwise it was just legitimately going to be a pain in the ass to get through certain areas or do certain things. And that's what I loved about that experience, even though in reality that harder difficulty is just, like I said, more health and more damage to the enemies, and you do less.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's an interesting thing that we're coming up against here again is balance, the difference between difficulty and balance. So
Yeah,
in
okay.
yeah. So in the case of The Witcher, saying how like, the enemies do more damage to you and you do less and they have more health. I would argue that there's actually maybe this is a little bit of a weird one. So this is not even a true argument because I don't fully believe it.
No,
But
take
let's
me on
just
a
say for the
ride,
sake
baby.
of the argument, yeah, for the sake of the argument, I would say that in the case of the Witcher's enemies, the difficulty has nothing to do with how much health or how much damage you do or how much the enemy damage does. It's got to do with the way that you control the character and know how to manage yourself in combat. Everything else is balance.
Oh, I see.
So you can give that enemy 1 HP and he can give you 100 HP. But if the way that the enemy moves around and it's so hard to hit that makes it like you can never really hit them because they're so flighty,
Hmm.
they're going to chip away at your damage 100 times, doing 1 damage each time until you die and you're never going to hit them. So it's inherently more challenging. But the balance is
Mm.
skewed in your favor.
Yeah, okay. All
What do you
right.
think about
Well,
that?
to counterpoint that, what
Yeah.
if we take something like The Last of Us 2,
Yeah.
where the intelligence of the enemy is literally a difficulty setting, and you can turn up their AI abilities in a menu.
Yeah.
Like,
This
uh,
is so abstract now. Yeah. Keep going.
but it's yeah, it blurs the line between balance and difficulty because it's giving you so much more control than games have offered in the past.
Yes.
Historically, it is a scaling change when you ramp up the difficulty. I think very few games offer uh, a difference in design, like in Super Meat Boy, or like, a more specific change in the way that you experience the game. So in games like The Last of Us 2 and in Dead Cells,
Yep.
like the difficulty change in Dead Cells is just brutal. So you start that game off, and I think the default setting is hard because it's a pretty hard game, and you get used to the enemies and their move sets, and you beat the game and you unlock the next difficulty setting, and you're like, great. And you go to these biomes that you're familiar with, but there are brand new enemies, and some of the old enemies have new move sets, and
Oh.
it's it's not just a scaling thing, which happens as well, but
Yeah.
it's like both. It's a design thing as well. Like, it changes everything against you.
Yep.
And then as you beat the game again, and you keep unlocking difficulty settings, and finally you unlock Nightmare, and there's a whole new mechanic introduced where there's this disease called the malaise on the island, and there's like a lot of lore around the malaise and how it basically brought the castle there to ruin.
Mm-hmm.
But on Nightmare, you're infected with the malaise, and if you get hit 10 times, you die regardless of
Right.
how much health you have. And there's turkey in the wall, like in Castlevania.
Excellent.
um, and some of the food, like some of the healing items that you can use in the game, are infected with the malaise.
Oh, fuck off.
So you might have to make this call where you're infected with the malaise 1 out of 10, but you're really low health, so you want to
Yeah.
heal your health and get more malaise. And it's like this, there's this strategy in managing both of those things to get to
Yeah.
the end.
Incredible. So yeah, that's such a beautiful example. I think this is like why certain moves in chess are kind of beautiful, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm thinking moves like discovered checks or like forking. So you know
Oh,
how like
you gotta talk to me, bro. I'm a chess noob.
okay. So let's say we'll do forking because it's kind of an easier concept to understand, especially with chess.
Hmm.
So you know with the knight how it moves in like an L shape.
Hmm.
If you move it up into a certain position on the opponent's end of the board, you can fork between like the queen and the rook, for
Oh,
example.
yep.
And so they are forced into a position where they have to lose one of their pieces, and they have to make a
Yeah.
call. If they lose their queen, that might be more valuable because it puts them in a better position to like win the game eventually, or they're just gonna lose the rook because it's a lower value piece. But either way, it's like a bad position to be in to get
Mm.
forked two ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's other positions where you can fork with because all the pieces like can move in omnidirections. Like the bishop can also move diagonal, left, right, up, and down.
Yep.
You can fork with the knight or the bishop, your opponent in three ways. I think with the knight you can actually fork your opponent in four ways. I think it's called like a four-way fork or something. And it's like incredible. Like you shouldn't be able to do this, but it's
Yeah.
yeah. You really give them like no choice. And I really like that as like an element of design. And I was thinking about it as you were talking just then because there's like the way they introduce malaise as it's almost like a risk versus reward or like it's more complicated than that though, right? Because it's like an ongoing challenge. That's what I mean by like the initial example of forking, where you choose to lose your queen instead of your rook, even though it's a higher value piece because it might position you better to win the game in the end.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that style stuff is
You choose to have like more malaise, but also more health because it's
yes,
probably going to give you that ability to take another hit or two.
yeah. I really like that aspect of design and difficulty, and there's sort of like a nice mixing of the two, which I think doesn't
Mm.
necessarily have much to do with balance. I think balance is a bit tricky, right? Because balance is threaded so intricately into difficulty and into design. Like you can't really have one without the other. I don't think. I think that even in the case of Meat Boy, there's still an amount of balance that's being done.
Yeah, I would honestly find it harder to talk about the balance in Meat Boy versus the
Yeah,
balance in, say, an RPG or Dead Cells or whatever, just because platformers are so specifically designed, and there's nothing to scale.
yeah,
It is just about really your ability to move the character, and like how how proficient you are
yeah.
at
Controlling
channeling
the
the silky precision of the crab.
character. So maybe the balance comes in with a mixture of things. I know I agree with you, but just to continue along this argument line
Hmm.
of balance being intertwined,
Mm.
in the case of QWOP or getting over it, the balance comes in with the fact that the form factor that you're using is suboptimal, right? Like if you
Right.
were
Yeah.
able to control the pot man much easier by using like two mice or something, I don't know, just run with me here,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it made the game easier, then that would be a form of balance potentially. And same with QWOP. Like if it actually gave you the ability to control the horse instead of not, that would kind of be a type of balance as well. I don't think that's a strong argument. I think you might be right. I think platformers and games like Getting Over It have no balance.
Right. Well, it just defeats the purpose of the game. They'd be a lot less enjoyable.
Yeah,
Like if you could control the horse in Quop or Clop or whatever it's called,
yeah.
that'd be the most boring game ever. You're just walking
You
a
just walk a
horse.
horse.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think that would be a kind of fun game. Let me walk a horse.
No, no, sorry, we're not buying that idea. Get off the stage.
Give me a horse game.
um, but I do like that difficulty can be tied to something as abstract as making the controls wacky or
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
I really love a game called Heave Ho on the Switch,
Oh yeah,
which is like a multiplayer game where you're a dude with two arms, and all you can do is grab on and let go,
yeah,
and you've got to get all of you to the end of the stage, and you're like, making these chain links and using momentum to swing yourself around. And because the controls are a little whack, it's just so fun and funny,
mm,
because the I don't know, just the concept of like helping your friend and having this intention to do something with your character on the screen, and something completely different happening because the controls are bad. Like it's hilarious, and it's just like it I don't know, it's a great type of challenge. You feel good after you beat it, and it's funny when you don't beat it. Like it
yeah,
just it's really satisfying either way.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Yeah. So I think to go back to your original question, like, would I do I enjoy games that have a difficulty setting?
Mm.
I think I think I prefer. I don't think I have a preference, but I think it's a fun thing to toy with. Like I think what we've just been doing, like talking about the difference between like design difficulty with stuff like Meat Boy, like there's no balance in Meat Boy. It's
Hmm.
just design, raw design.
Hmm.
And then like The Witcher with balance and being able to scale enemies' health and damage and your own damage and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
I think there's like a sweet spot. And I think the sweet spot is with games like Dead Cells and the ability to have, that beautiful design aspect of having things that influence other things. When
Mm.
balance starts to intertwine itself a little bit more heavily with balance and design, like when those two sort of link hands,
Mm. Yeah.
it starts to like really sing in a way that I think games um, that just do design, like Meat Boy, don't have, and games that just do balance, like most RPGs,
Yep, yep.
don't do as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I I think the one thing we've missed when it comes to deciding which might be more enjoyable between a game with difficulty settings and a game without is that the experience you get, I feel, when you play a game like Dark Souls is a much more curated experience, and you really feel like you're in the palms of the designers.
Hmm.
And I love that idea that everyone has the same experience when they play this game. Like they all verse that first tourist dude or the big
Yeah.
demon that lands on the bridge. Or they might not actually if they totally go the wrong way. But like most people have that experience, and it's just like I like when you can share those moments with other people.
Hmm.
But like to counter that argument, I also don't give a shit if you play with a mod where you do like 10 times more damage.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
maybe I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I like okay, what about, I know we've talked about Hades a lot.
Okay.
But what about Hades, where it's like Dark Souls? It doesn't have any difficulty settings. However, there's a God mode option, and what that does is every time you die, you permanently get a defense buff, and
Yeah.
that defense buff creeps up in increments.
Yeah.
Every time you die, and that feels like an elegant way to give everyone the Taurus Demon experience, but people get to choose whether they go in raw and embrace the challenge, or if they want to have a more casual experience and just have a more breezy fun time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think the Hades example is a little bit more graceful,
Mm.
but I also think it's only graceful if the person is enjoying the game already. Like if you scale your defense each time you die,
Mm.
you're going to have to die a bunch of times in order for the game to adjust to your difficulty level. And if you don't enjoy
Mm.
dying, or you're not enjoying the game in the first place, then that version of accessibility is not, it doesn't encompass the full spectrum of people who may still want to enjoy the game.
Mm. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I think it is more graceful potentially than just a slider in a menu, but it's
Mm.
also, you know, it doesn't do everything. It's not a total solution,
Yeah, yeah,
which
I
is
guess.
fine. We don't need to have total solutions all the time. We're humans. We're playing things made by humans. like
Yeah.
we're not like ultimate beings floating through space. As like we're just chilling, doing our best, man.
Yeah, a lot of us are doing our best, and you went on that rant last week about The Last of Us 2 and all the
Mm,
settings available, and that that really does feel like something worthy of praise. Like that really
yes.
does feel like it's going in the right direction. And there are a few things that games are doing at the moment where a game makes a choice and you start to see it in another game, and you're like, oh man, that feels like progression. Like
Mm,
in the latest Animal Crossing, there are no genders. It's just like a masculine body type and a feminine body type, and
mm-hmm.
there are no labels, and that just feels
Yeah.
great. It feels really inclusive,
Yeah.
and that is going to matter to some people, and that feels great. And then in a completely different genre, you see Elden Ring do the same thing. When
Mm,
you choose your character, you choose between body types. You don't choose between male and female.
yeah.
And that's just like a change that doesn't really cost the developer anything to implement. And I think that's progression in a sense that, like, as an industry, like, we get to start expecting these kind of improvements a bit more.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, and I think the more we talk about accessibility as well, the more it becomes relevant, right? Like there's um this stuff happens with, this is so abstract now, but this stuff happens with
Bro,
language.
I thought challenge, like I thought difficulty was going to be so easy, and we are just all over the place. This
No,
is like.
I actually think we've stayed on topic really well this time.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, this is going off topic. This to respond to what you were talking about. That something happens with language, and when people start talking about things openly and more frequently, right? Like it becomes part of the world, and it's like in this really weird, not intentional way, right? Like
The
just
zeitgeist.
yeah, the zeitgeist, which I don't like using that word, but like yeah, it
Why?
is that. It's like the ether, like if there's enough of particular type of words, I like using the term words because like that's just how we express ourselves, like we say stuff, and then we as long as people keep saying stuff, it tends to trend in that direction usually, right? And so
Yeah,
with accessibility, I feel like with in recent times, more people talking about it and more people asking of devs and devs doing this sort of stuff, you get more discussion about it, and it becomes like this sort of self-sustaining machine, right? Where it's just like, gender is no longer a thing in video games; it's just body type. To use that example, or difficulty becomes something that's not just based purely on balance, but more on more elegant solutions like the one in Hades or Last of Us. Like the more that this starts to become discussed and talked about and implemented, the more we start to see it.
yeah, definitely. As long as we have a healthy amount of criticism, like I don't think complacence does anything for anyone.
Mm.
I think becoming maladaptive or just safe rather than provoking change, I don't think is a very exciting way to live.
Yes. Look, if we're looking for a place with criticism, I think you've gone to the wrong place. There's no criticism inside of video games. This is the land of where people are happy with the things that they play all the time, every time they play it.
Oh my god, yeah. It's yeah. When we were talking about this last week, I was thinking about games where I've stopped playing because the difficulty's been too high,
Hmm.
but I've also stopped playing because the difficulty has been too low,
Right.
or the overall challenge has lost its like the honeymoon period is over,
Yep.
and it's time to stop. And like for me, those games are like Animal Crossing, which again is a game like that recent one. I've got 200 hours in it,
Yeah. Wow.
but eventually it just peters off because it's a game that is like it doesn't really have any challenges.
Hmm.
It's everything is self-imposed because you get to decide how you want your town to look, if you want to build a town at all.
Hmm.
Like it's kind of like a boiled down version of The Sims. With The Sims, you've got a lot more variety and many more options to influence the people in that world with the kind of houses they live in and if they can get out of the bathroom or not. But
Yeah.
it's another area of self-imposed challenges that aren't really challenges at all.
Yeah.
It's almost like the game is saying you've got to determine how you make fun
Yes.
in this world. We've created the world, but you've got to do the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Animal Crossing actually struggles with that quite a lot, and the only thing that, maybe not the only thing, but I think one of the main things that keeps it afloat is the social aspect of it.
Mm, yeah.
And also there's like, which is so disappointing because the social aspect is bungled in so many ways in that game.
Oh, I mean,
um
it's just Nintendo being shit at anything that
yeah.
requires an internet connection.
I wish dude, imagine if you could just drop by your friend's island at any time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, there's just so much basic shit that
yeah.
again that game fails at, like all the menus and
Yeah.
not being able to craft multiple items at once. Like
Oh my god.
there's just like the game. The I don't want to get too.
It asks so much of you and
Yeah.
gives very little in return.
Yeah,
Um,
but like when it first came out, and maybe it came out literally the second or third week Melbourne was in lockdown,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so for us, I feel like it came out at that beautiful time where we were just
yeah,
like, yes, escapism. I
yes,
want to meet my friendly cow dudes and build them a fence. Like, yes,
yes,
that's all my brain can handle right now.
exactly. Yeah, I think it's a game for a time that we experienced very specific, such a
mm,
specific point in history. Whereas,
mm.
if you were to go to it without the coronavirus pandemic happening, I think it would have done, maybe it wouldn't have done as well, but I would think it would have done quite poorly because that game asks so much of you.
Yeah, you underestimate the Animal Crossing clan.
Yeah,
They're
yes, but I
they're
would say those
very
people don't mind being asked a whole lot of because that's what they love. They love that style shit. They'll put up with anything.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a time wasting thing, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, that's a weird thing to go into as well, like video games and time wasting, because
Hmm.
there are definitely games I play like Elden Ring where I'm like, this is not a waste of time for me. Like, and just quickly, I
Hmm.
think just on a personal level, no matter what you're doing, if you can get some enjoyment out of it, I don't think it's a waste of time as
Yes.
long as
Yes.
it's like not harming anyone or harming yourself too much.
Yeah.
But when I think about Elden Ring specifically, like it offers a lot for you to concentrate on. Like there's all the RPG mechanics, damage output, balance, move sets, lore, like that there's just so much in there where in a game like Animal Crossing, like especially the older iterations, that it felt like a game specifically designed for the 15 minutes while you wait for the bus or
Yeah.
something. Like it's not it's just it asks so much of you, and it doesn't respect your time at
No.
all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so carving out dedicated time to play a game like that does feel a bit weird.
Yes. Yeah. It's weird. So and it's such a strange contrast. It's like this really cute little game where like there's no challenge. It's just about hanging out with your little villager buddies. But it doesn't respect your time, and so it's like, oh, you want to craft like more than one thing at one time? Too bad, bitch. you know, you're gonna have to sit through this one item at a time. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to have a visitor? Oh, too bad. You need to like open your gate. Okay, your gate's open. Okay, they can come in. But wait, no, they can't. They need the code. Okay, they got the code. All right, now they can come in. All right, wait a minute though. We got to freeze your whole game for like a minute and a half while we show you this like dumb little cutscene of them flying over the island. Okay, now they're in. Oh wait, no, the internet's just dropped out. Oh, never mind. It's all corrupted. Your save file's corrupted. 300 hours of your village are now gone. Like, fuck you, Animal Crossing. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. I,
Yeah,
I, I, I don't know what to do with that, because I've been on both sides of the argument. I've
yeah,
just
same.
been in rapture with my island dudes and the way things are coming together, and how efficient I've made my like fruit production
Yeah,
and all this kind of stuff. And then as I ticked over 100 hours, 120 hours, I'm like, man, I just played for an hour and I
yeah,
managed to do shit all.
yeah,
Like I've hardly accomplished anything, and eventually it just didn't offer enough to keep me there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it does get to that point, and I think Warframe actually does a similar thing, which is a bit of a hard pivot.
Hmm.
But speaking of balance and difficulty, that game really struggles with balance and difficulty because there's so many moving elements and moving parts.
Right.
Like gun damage and enemy health and all sorts of like scaling. It's just like this huge complicated machine.
Hmm.
and it really struggles. And at a certain point in that game, you start to stop seeing the enemies as even things. They're just like zeros and ones almost. You start to become like Neo in the Matrix a little bit. But then at that very point, it just becomes really dull. It's like,
Right.
why am I like number go up, right? That good, but
Yeah.
fun go down. Like
Well,
yeah,
I mean, maybe a bit of a segue here, but Warframe being an online game, like solely multiplayer games have a really interesting problem to correct when it comes to difficulty.
yeah,
Because when you have a game like Overwatch, where you only have a team of humans versus another team of humans, like you've got all your balance and gun damage and stuff that you need to work on, but otherwise it's a unique situation for a developer to find themselves in because they need to work out how this player who's 13 from Australia is evenly matched with this player from Russia who's 57. Like,
yeah,
that's a really interesting problem to have to solve.
yeah, yeah. It's I think so. There's like brackets, like there's like rankings and all that sort of stuff that they've tried to solve it with.
Mm, mm,
And I think some games do a more elegant job of that than others. I've been playing Hunt recently, like I mentioned at the start, and that game does a pretty good job at keeping higher level players out of your games.
mm-hmm.
There's like a star rating, so and your stars are persistent. There's no like seasons or anything,
Right.
and so like as you get more kills and less deaths, and you start to extract more, you start to gain more stars,
Mm,
and so you end up in games with I think it's usually your star level or and one above and one below. But you usually don't get one that's like got 2 stars above you or 3 stars above you.
right. Yeah.
The problem is with Hunt is that there's not like a huge number of players playing. And so when you start to get into like the higher, 5, 6 star realm, you're fighting the same 12 guys over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say or mention Titanfall 2 has that same
Yeah,
problem where
yeah,
it's got a ranking system that is pretty much a copy and paste from like Modern Warfare 2, where you have like a number rank, which
yeah.
is 1 to 70. And then once you get to 70, you can reset
Prestige.
it. And then you've got like you've got a title, and that title
Yep.
goes up, and then you go back to 1 and you can do 1 to 70 again. But
Yeah.
but when you log on to that game and it's got like 500 people on the server, like you are a brand new player and you're just thrown against these veterans that
Yeah.
can headshot you from across the map.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Hunt has the same thing. Like you can level up from 0 to 100 and prestige and stuff.
Oh yeah,
But
prestige,
it,
that's
yeah,
what it's called.
yeah. But it also has this sliding difficulty based on deaths and victories and stuff, which is I
Mm,
think is a nice layer on top.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
I wanted to bring up Factorio because I was thinking about difficulty.
Oh yeah.
I think that game does a really fantastic job of slowly increasing the difficulty over time in
Oh,
like multiple different ways.
dude, please stop telling me how good Factorio is. Like
Oh boy.
it's just like the syringe filled with heroin like in the bottom.
Waiting on the bench. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like I can only think about it for too long before I have to distract myself. Otherwise
Yeah.
I will go down the path to try and begin playing that game.
Oh, I just know if we start playing that game together, it's all over. Um,
Yeah, our lives will end, our
yeah,
careers will plunge.
yeah.
Oh
Look, okay.
god.
Here's what I'll say. Actually, is it out on Mac as well? Like I always forget.
Um,
I'll
um,
look it up after.
okay.
Um, but yeah, if when I'm done with freelance, I might have to gift you Factorio, and we can both delve into the depths
Oh Jesus.
together. But yeah,
Oh
anyway,
Jesus.
Factorio does this really beautiful job of like slowly introducing new elements into the system each time you sort of reach a point.
Hmm.
And the system becomes more and more complicated as you go. But as the system becomes more complicated, your understanding increases and improves. And so
Yeah.
you're doing this like parallel, really beautifully parallel difficulty scale along with understanding scale. And I think Dark Souls and those games do a similar thing, right? Where like
Yeah.
your understanding of the game improves as the difficulty of the enemies increases.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd almost argue by the sounds of it that Factorio is a little more graceful in that though, because
mm,
really like the difficulty in Dark Souls just comes down to memorization skills and patience. Like
yeah,
it's not so much like I think that there is definitely a plateau where like when you first start you are going to improve at playing the game, like stopping yourself from panic rolling and button mashing and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
once you reach that plateau and you fight a new boss, you're not really getting better at the game. You're just memorizing the boss's move set.
yeah,
Like you just like, oh yep, I know what this movie's gonna be, and I'm familiar with the roll button now, so I know when to roll to dodge this attack. And like the more you beat that boss, or the more you battle that boss, the better you become at like recognizing when is a good time to strike and when is a good time to back off, when they're gonna do an AoE.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
that's like probably the only positive argument that Elden Ring has when it comes to the egregious amount of copy and paste in that game.
Yep.
Like when you're battling the 15th urge tree at the bottom of the tree dudes at the bottom of the Erd
Yeah,
trees,
yeah,
it's just like the damage output they have is all pumped up and so is their health. But like a lot of the times you just beat them without getting hit because you're just so
you
familiar
just
with the
know their
move
moves.
set.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's something in previous games, because those games are more original than Elden Ring, where like you have to play through multiple times to come to that level of proficiency. But it
Yeah, right.
but it sounds like Factorio is actually introducing more concepts as you go along.
Yes, yes, that's
Right.
right. Beautifully said. Yeah, concepts are the things that it brings to you.
Right. And that sounds like, yeah, that just sounds better, honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're very different games, but yeah, I think it is better. There is also something to be said for the way. So I was thinking about balance before, and I think Factorio does this really neat thing where it lets you control balance a little bit.
Oh, how so?
So, so sort of like in Warframe, I guess, in a similar way. But there's items and upgrades and things like that that you do, and even just the way that your factory flows is like all about improving the balance, right? There's like a balance of resources that are coming in which allow you to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to like optimize the flow of resources within the factory, the balance improves. And
Right.
so it's like, yeah, it's maybe it's a little bit different to like health and stuff like that, but it's I think it's really neat that they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way they flow between like here's how you build a conveyor belt into here's how an assembly machine works into like here's how research works, and then it's
Mm.
like here's how trains work, and then it's like here's how oil refinery works, and then it's like oh here's how nuclear works, and like while you're doing all of this like research becomes more and more complex, you need more items to make things that, and so your conveyor belts need to be upgraded, the grabbers that take stuff from the conveyor belts need to be upgraded. Yeah,
Mm.
it's just this whole flowing on effect of as things get more complicated, so too does the initial thing that you built needs to like morph and adapt.
Right. Oh,
So
that
yeah,
sounds so
it's
good.
wild. Yeah, and it's co-op.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that just sounds like a great time. And
yeah.
and you did kind of remind me of something there that I don't want to dive too deep into because we're kind of nearing the end.
Oh yeah, too. Yeah.
But like the scaling of difficulty as the game goes on. So not scaling as in health and whatsoever,
Yeah.
but like the snowballing of difficulty. And it just reminded me of like incentives and how kind of strange it is, really. Like in Call of Duty, when you get a kill streak, you get a bonus. like you get an ability, right, to see where other people are on the map, or you can like save your kill streak and drop bombs, or like something to that effect. And
Hmm.
it's kind of strange because you're rewarding the people that are already winning so that they can do better than they already are.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's a really weird decision. Like, it kind of makes
Yes.
sense because you want to reward people for doing well, but like it's kind of like capitalism, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
the
was about to
rich,
say, yeah.
the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's
Yeah.
just it's a weird
Yes.
dichotomy.
Yeah, the balance is way off. Capitalism, blizz, please, nerf. Um, yeah, in Factorio as well, there's like the enemy aliens scale over time and based on how much pollution you're making. And so, like,
Oh,
yeah, your factory starts to put out a heap of pollution depending on which route you end up going, like electricity or coal, or there's like solar. And so you can influence how frequently you're attacked by aliens based on, different things like that. And also, they get stronger as time progresses. They get different abilities, different alien types. Yeah, it's so sick.
oh
So
God, that sounds so good.
yeah, shall we jump into the final segment of the day, news?
Oh my God,
Quick news with Joe.
I forgot about news with Joe. Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
Hell yeah. Okay, so very first cab off the rank is the new Monkey Island game that got announced. Have you seen this?
New Monkey Island. Wow,
Yeah.
throwback.
Yeah. Did you ever play Monkey Island?
Yeah, I never finished it, but it was just like one of those games that was on the school computer in primary school.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I never played it. It was one of those like everyone in the games industry has played this game and like it's so highly respected, but I just never played it.
Yeah, well, I think there are a bunch of games that are pretty similar, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
those early King's Quest games. Those point and click adventure
Point
games.
and clicks,
All
yeah.
Yeah, they all have like a similar um, kind of thing going on
Yeah.
until Disco Elysium, the ultimate point
Oh
and click
god,
game,
yeah.
was invented. Anyway, right, New Monkey Island. That's cool.
Yes. Maybe I should finish Disco Elysium so we can have a potty episode about it.
Oh, bro. I mean, I just everything. No, I'm having a great time right now, but like
Okay.
everything feels like a waste of time if I'm not playing Disco Elysium. Like that game really has its
Uh,
tendrils in me.
yeah, it's great. The writing is just sublime.
Oh man, it's just like a good book. When you're
Yeah,
reading a
it
good
is.
book and you're just like, I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat because I just want to stay in this world. I want
Yeah,
to
yep.
see, I want to see what happens.
Yep. Yep. It's incredible. Next piece of news is the Monkey Island game is called Return to Monkey Island, and I'll put a trailer in the show notes, and you can go and watch it if you wish.
Love that.
The next piece of news is Unreal Engine released its official version 5, which is pretty big news in game industry land.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So that's basically a brand new technology canvas for studios to make games with, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's only brand new in the version, so it's been around for a long time. Unreal Engine has been very persistent in the world of games creation.
Yeah, I've seen it like
Um,
pop up during the intro credits or whatever when you start a game.
yeah, it's up there with like Unity technology. They are the other consumer game engine.
Hmm.
There's other ones that specific studios use. There's like Crytek Engine, for instance. I think it's called CryEngine.
Hmm.
There's the Amazon one, which is also a consumer one, though less used and less commonly known about, called Lumberyard.
Right.
Um, but yeah, Unreal 5 has just launched the other day. It's been in early access for a couple of months now, and yeah, they've basically just released a whole bunch of stuff. So I don't know if you remember the Matrix demo that came out a little while ago for PlayStation 5 and Xbox One X or
It
whatever it
it
is.
it rings a bell.
Yeah, it was this beautiful demo which really highlighted the like what next gen looks like, and it was all done in Unreal.
Ah, right. So I wanted to ask, like, what benefits are we starting to see? Like, is this basically just a graphics upgrade, or like a more complicated artificial intelligence, or like?
a whole slew of things. Yes to both. I mean, there's
Right.
there are a lot more. So with the Matrix demo, they basically released the full thing open source, so you can go
Oh,
and like
cool.
take a look at the animation files or see how the game works, or like how they put together all the meshes, how the
Oh,
AI in
that's
the crowd
awesome.
works, the driving systems. People have
Wow.
already started making like I saw like a Superman demo where you like fly around the city as Superman, because they built this whole massive city to drive around in, but now you can fly with this demo.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, yeah, it's just a really huge news because well, Unreal's free, anyone can use it,
Right.
and it's so pretty cool stuff.
Hell yeah.
Um,
So, wait, if it's free, how do they make money? Do the publishers have to pay them if they use that engine to make a game?
so it's free for use as long as you aren't making money from the product.
Oh,
So
I
I
see.
think the
Yep,
minute
yep.
you go over, I think it's like $10,000 or something like that in revenue, I think they start taking a chunk.
Right, I see.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, they've become super prominent ever since Fortnite happened. So Fortnite basically afforded Epic the ability to do a whole slew of different things.
Mm.
They have like mega grants. They actually gave a mega grant to the studio that I work at many years ago when they were first getting started.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they just sent the demo of the game to Epic, and they were like, "Here, have $20,000. Just have it. No questions asked. We're like, what you're doing? Have some money."
No shit.
Yeah, and so they're still doing things like that. You can apply for mega grants, and they'll send you money. They just have surplus of money because of Fortnite, and the money
Cool.
keeps flowing, and they keep doing these great philanthropist things, and hopefully hopefully Unreal 5 turns out some really cool games, and yeah. So
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
that's the second piece of news. And the final piece of news, which I already mentioned at the start, I think, is that Artful Escape, the game that I helped make last year, won a BAFTA,
Yeah.
and
Hell yeah.
Returnal won Best Game at
Oh
the
my
BAFTAs.
god. That's another game that I'm just so excited for.
Yeah, Returnal is sick.
Speaking of difficulty, like, when I hear a game is too hard or really hard, I'm like, yes, that is my flavor.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Every time I hear about Returnal, I want to play it again. It was such a great game.
Sick.
I want to finish it.
Yeah, hell
And
yeah.
yeah, there's a co-op mode now, so that's even better. I will
Oh my
definitely
god.
be chomping on that at some stage.
Yeah, loving. I mean, that's another topic for another time. But I'd love to do just like a co-op thing because
Yeah,
local co-op is just like one of the best feelings you can have when you play a game.
yeah,
Like it just, I don't know. There's something so special about fucking around with someone on the couch right next to you.
yeah, yep. I agree. I miss it, man. I miss those vibes. Feel like it was a
Yeah.
big part of my life a while ago, and now I don't play too many co-op couch games anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's it, man. That's the show. Do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah. No, I don't really. I'm just so glad that if people have made it this far, that they've put up with our hangover shenanigans. But
I
yeah, it's.
maybe I've got the rose tinted glasses on, but I think we actually stayed on topic for a good 45 minutes there.
Oh man. All right. I'm glad then. I'm
Yeah,
glad. I
yeah.
guess we'll see y'all, and it's almost the weekend again.
Bye.
Bye.